Good evening. Welcome to worship on this Good Friday. I'm glad you've heard God's call to come and to remember that we don't jump right from Palm Sunday to Easter, but we're reminded of the pain and suffering and the sacrifice Christ gave for us. Tonight, this is a service of darkness, and so it will get darker and darker. That's intentional. And tonight is a time when we remember the words from the cross. We hope you'll join us again Easter Sunday morning at 10:30 for that celebration.
There's a temptation to rush to Easter. But tonight we remember that you have to go through the darkness of Friday in order to get to the brightness of Easter. And I think for those who try to skip the darkness of Friday, that the brightness of Easter is not quite as bright as those who've gone through the dark. Tonight we worship with a service of tenebrae. Tenebrae is the Latin word for shadows or darkness. It's a Christian religious service celebrated during Holy Week, and the distinctive ceremony of tenebrae is the gradual extinguishing of candles while a series of readings or psalms are chanted or recited. One frequent element of Protestant tenebrae services is the reading of the 7 last sayings of Jesus, assembled from the various gospel accounts. Traditionally, the service ends in darkness, and the congregation exits in silence. We are scattered all over, but the service will end in darkness, and you are invited to observe a time of silence following the service.
Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Oh, sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Were you there when they nailed him to the tree? Were you there when they nailed him to the tree? Oh, sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when they nailed him to the tree? Were you there when they pierced him in the side? Were you there when they pierced him in the side? Oh, sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when they pierced him in the side? Were you there when the sun refused to shine? Were you there when the sun refused to shine? Sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when the sun refused to shine? Were you there when they laid him in the tomb? Were you there when they laid him in the tomb? Oh, sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when they laid him in the tomb?
The first word, reading from Luke 23, verses 32 through 34. 2 other men, both criminals, were also led out with him to be executed. When they came to the place called the Skull, they crucified him there along with the criminals, one on his right, the other on his left. Jesus said, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they do." And they divided up his clothes by casting lots. "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." The first saying of Jesus on the cross is traditionally called the word of forgiveness. It is interpreted as Jesus' prayer for forgiveness for those who were crucifying him, the Roman soldiers, for all others who were involved in his crucifixion, and for all of us as well. In silence, we confess our sins, ask for the forgiveness of Christ. In your mercy, Lord, hear our prayers.
Just as I am, without one plea, but that thy blood was shed for me, and that thou bidst me come to thee, O Lamb of God. I come, I come. Just as I am, and waiting not to rid my soul of one dark blot, to thee whose blood can cleanse each spot, O Lamb of God. I come, I come. Just as I am, thy love unknown hath broken every barrier down. Now to be thine, yea, thine alone, O Lamb of God. I come, I come.
The second word comes from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 23, beginning with verse 39. One of the criminals who hung there hurled insults at him. "Aren't you the Messiah? Save yourself and us." But the other criminal rebuked him. "Don't you fear God," he said, "since you are under the same sentence. We are punished justly, for we are getting what our deeds deserve, but this man has done nothing wrong." Then he said, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." And Jesus answered him, "Truly I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise." Truly I say to you, today you will be with me in paradise. This saying is traditionally called the word of salvation. Jesus was crucified between two thieves, one of whom supports Jesus' innocence and asks him to remember him when he comes into his kingdom. Jesus replies, "Truly I say to you," followed by the promise of inclusion in the heavenly life to come. This promise is for all who claim Jesus as Lord. Truly I say to you, today you will be with me in paradise.
Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom.
Let's sing that again, and instead of saying the word me, fill in your own name in that spot.
Jesus, remember Jackie when you come into your kingdom. Jesus, remember Jackie when you come into your kingdom.
The third word, the reading from John 19, verses 25 through 27. Near the cross of Jesus stood his mother's sister, Mary, the wife of Cleopas, and Mary Magdalene. When Jesus saw his mother there and the disciple whom he loved standing nearby, he said to her, "Woman, here is your son." And to the disciple, "Here is your mother." From that time on, this disciple took her into his home. "Woman, behold your son, behold your mother." This statement is traditionally called the word of relationship, and it is Jesus entrusting his mother Mary into the care of a faithful disciple. In this word, we are reminded of our responsibility to care for one another.
When I survey the wondrous cross on which the Prince of Glory died, my riches gain I count but loss, and pour contempt on all my pride. Were the whole realm of nature mine, that were an offering far too
The fourth word from Mark chapter 15, verses 33 and 34. At noon, darkness came over the whole land until 3 p.m. And at 3 p.m, Jesus cried out in a loud voice, Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani, which means, my God, why have you forsaken me? My God, why have you forsaken me? This saying is traditionally called the word of abandonment. Found in both Matthew and Mark, it is the only saying that appears in more than one of the Gospels. This saying is given in Aramaic with a translation after it. This phrase is the opening line of Psalm 22, and it was common for people in this time to reference Psalms by quoting their first lines. If this is Jesus' intent, Psalm 22 is filled not only with expressions of trouble and woe, but also with the assurance of God's gracious presence always. My God, why have you forsaken me?
Beneath the cross of Jesus, I fain would take my stand. The shadow of a mighty rock within a weary land, a home within the wilderness, a rest upon the way from the burning of the noontide heat and the burden of the day. Upon the cross of Jesus, mine eye at times can see the very dying form of one who suffered there for me. And from my stricken heart with tears to wonders I confess, the wonders of redeeming love and my unworthiness.
The fifth word, found in the 19th chapter of John, reading verses 28 and 29. Later, knowing that everything had now been finished, and so that Scripture would be fulfilled, Jesus said, I thirst. A jar of wine vinegar was there, and so they soaked it in a sponge, put the sponge on a stalk of the hyssop plant, and lifted it to Jesus' lips. I thirst. This statement is traditionally called the word of distress. In it, we are reminded of the humanity and suffering of Jesus and his teaching. I was hungry, and you fed me, thirsty, and you gave me drink. As you have done it to one of the least of these, you have done it to me.
Jesus, keep me near the cross, there a precious fountain, free to all a healing stream, flows from Calvary's mountain. Near the cross, O Lamb of God, bring its scenes before me. Help me walk from day to day with its shadow on me. In the cross, be my glory ever, till my raptured soul shall find rest beyond the river. Near the cross I'll watch and wait, hoping, trusting ever, till I reach the golden strand just beyond the river. In the cross, be my glory ever, till my raptured soul shall find rest beyond the river.
The sixth word comes from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 23, beginning with verse 44. It was now about noon, and darkness came over the whole land until 3 p.m. For the sun stopped shining, and the curtain of the temple was torn in two. And Jesus called out with a loud voice, "Father, into your hands I commit my spirit." When he had said this, he breathed his last. "Father, into your hands I commit my spirit." This saying, which is an announcement and not a request, is traditionally called the word of reunion, and is theologically interpreted as the proclamation of Jesus joining God the Father in heaven. This word is often used in our funeral services to remind us of our reunion with God. Father, into your hands I commit my spirit.
Oh, that old rugged cross, so despised by the world, has a wondrous attraction for me. For the dear Lamb of God left his glory above to bear it to dark Calvary. So I'll cherish the old rugged cross till my trophies at last I lay down. I will cling to the old rugged cross and exchange it someday for a crown.
The seventh word is found in John 19, verses 29 and 30. A jar of wine vinegar was there, so they soaked a sponge in it, put the sponge on a stalk of hyssop plant, and lifted it to Jesus' lips. When he had received the drink, Jesus said, "It is finished." With that, he bowed his head and gave up his spirit. It is finished. This statement is traditionally called the word of triumph and is theologically interpreted as the announcement of the end of the earthly life of Jesus. No more needs to be done. The work of salvation is complete. It is finished.
Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when they crucified my Lord?
It's Friday. Jesus is praying. Peter's asleep. Judas is betrayed. But Sunday's coming. It's Friday. Pilate's struggling. The council is conspiring. The crowd is vilifying. They don't even know that Sunday's coming. It's Friday. The disciples are running like sheep without a shepherd. Mary's crying. Peter is denying. But they don't know that Sundays are coming. It's Friday. The Romans beat my Jesus. They robe him in scarlet. They crown him with thorns. But they don't know that Sunday's coming. It's Friday. See Jesus walking to Calvary. His blood dripping. His body stumbling. And his spirit's burdened. But you see, it's only Friday. Sunday's coming. It's Friday. The world's winning. People are sinning. And evil's grinning. It's Friday. The soldiers nailed my Savior's hands to the cross. They nailed my Savior's feet to the cross. And then they raised him up next to criminals. It's Friday. But let me tell you something. Sunday's coming. It's Friday. The disciples are questioning what has happened to their king. And the Pharisees are celebrating that their scheming has been achieved. But they don't know it's only Friday. Sunday's coming. It's Friday. He's hanging on the cross, feeling forsaken by his Father, left alone and dying. Can nobody save him? Oh, it's Friday, but Sunday's coming. It's Friday. The earth trembles. The sky grows dark. My King yields his spirit. It's Friday. Hope is lost. Death has won. Sin has conquered. And Satan's just a laughing. It's Friday. Jesus is buried. A soldier stands guard, and a rock is rolled into place. But it's Friday. It is only Friday. Sunday is a coming.